Hello everyone. Welcome to another video that I wasn't really anticipating doing, but you guys have all been so great with the subscribing and following on Twitter. I thought you deserved one more final thoughts video before I get my team selection going. I'm probably going to get that either going tomorrow or Friday, so you have at least 24 hours to take a look and make your own decisions before the deadline comes for the games on Saturday. So this video is just going to be covering some things that we've already covered and just kind of summarizing things, maybe a couple new things. If you have been watching all the videos all the way through, I don't know how much new information you're going to get, maybe a little bit. But if you watch it, great. If not, I don't think you'll be missing out on too much information. But I really appreciate all the support. And we have crossed 150 subscribers. Now we're at 154. I appreciate that so much. I thought it was a long shot to get to 150 before the season started, but you helped me get there. Thank you so much. And let's keep that number rising and growing. Lots of discussion in the comments and Twitter page now, and it's just been so fun over the course of this preseason. And I'm sure the season is going to be just as great. So without further ado, we'll get into the first thing that we've talked a lot about and that I talk a lot about because it impacts my strategy a lot, and that is the fixtures. To start out the season, teams I'm looking at are Roma, Napoli, and Empoli, although Empoli not as much as I originally started. I was really backing them to at the start of this season for some cheap options. But based on some other things that have happened that we will talk about later in the video, especially that weak Coppa Italia match that they lost, I am not backing Empoli as hard as I was before. It's just they don't look as defensively sound. I know I'm just judging that on one competitive fixture. I do get that. But they only have a couple good fixtures, maybe 4 or 5 good fixtures to start out the season, and then I'll probably be off them again anyways and looking for another good budget team to get players from to keep costs down. But really, Napoli and Roma are two teams that I'm strongly looking at right now for double or triple ups. So that's where my head is at as far as fixtures. I do have a full like FDR that I've made on an Excel sheet. Maybe if you message me, I can try to figure out a way to send that. That's all based on my personal opinion on how I see teams and stuff. But that can be another thing we look at for later. And I have that for all 38 games of the season. So that's for fixtures. As far as player threats, big player threats that if you don't have could be a big swing in points, I only have one of them right now. And the three that I really want to point out is Theo Hernandez, which I do have. Regretted not having him to start last season. Did jump on the bandwagon. He continued to do well, which is part of the reason I started climbing ranks. But I really recommend having Theo Hernandez. I know that's an expensive defender, but he is worth it as far as last year showed. The other two are strikers that I do not have. One is Immobile, who still I am like, do I just kind of really change the team around and get rid of someone else that I want in order to get him in? I do not think I will be starting with Immobile. I'll just say that right now. But I might try to at least make sure I have the funds that I can switch to him if Lazio's fixtures get really good. And the last one's Lukaku. I'm not really sure how he's going to perform. Fixtures are meh, like they're not bad, not fantastic. I don't know if he'll start right away, but if he starts and hits the ground running like I'd expect him to, and like fantasy Serie A is expecting him to with being the highest priced player, having him could be a really big jump in points that may put you ahead of the rest. So that's another thing to just look out for is there. I think there's 3 big threats right now that a lot of people may have that if you don't have them, could screw you over. And that's me saying it, and I'm only owning one of them. So something just to keep in mind is if you don't want to fall behind the 8 ball, consider maybe having 1, 2. I don't think you'll be able to fit all 3 of them in without sacrificing the rest of your team heavily. But just something to keep in mind. Another one, and if you play the Fantasy Premier League for the English game, you might have had this dilemma as well in having 2 $4.0 million keepers. In the Premier League game, it's the 2 Leicester keepers, which I have gone with, and I am thinking about going with them again. I'd almost say for sure I am. I do like taking that risk and keeping as little money in the goalkeepers as possible. And right now, for me, that is Zoet and Falcone. Zoet from Spezia, who I did start with last year, who did play the Coppa Italia match. Somewhat worried that Provedel is going to take a spot again, but we'll get there. And Falcone does seem to have that Lecce spot locked down pretty good, I'd say. Transfer from Sampdoria, I don't think they'd bring him over to not play him. So I am confident in that pick that at least I'll have the Lecce starter, even if Zoet's not playing. Um, I think for safety, I'll probably keep at least 0.5 in the bank in case I need to go to a 4.5 goalie. But again, this is how things change. I was pretty sure that Vicario was going to be locked up as my number one goalie starting the season, but now I can save that little bit more money and put it into offense, to my offense or defense really, and keep it out of the keeper slots. Um, I think a big part of that is I do want to have funds to go up to Immobile if he's just absolutely crushing it again, to jump on that bandwagon. And that is part of the way that I'm going to be able to do that. But I'd say that's a dilemma that still I'm kind of having, and the rest of serious players will be having, is do you stick with just $8 million in the keeper slots, or do you spend the extra 0.5 or even more? I've seen some people in drafts recently have Mignon and others that are more premium, Skorupski, stuff like that. So just things to keep an eye on. Another thing to keep an eye on is it's not totally unusual, but not usual lately, that this season is starting in transfer season still. We still have about 2 weeks of transfer season left. And normally I would say be careful that you're not picking too many players that just got transferred in because they might not start right away. And that is, I still stand by that. One other thing to keep in mind is don't pick too many players that are considered to be transferred out, where there's too many rumors around, where it's very likely that they will get transferred out. I know, for instance, Rabiot is one of these players that have a lot of links to being transferred out to. I think he's going to Manchester United and stuff. There was lots of talk around Raspadori. I don't know if that's behind us completely or not. And if he does get transferred, actually might stay in Serie A, so that might be okay. But just other players that have a lot of rumors surrounding them. You don't want too many players that are literally going to be out of the league scoring 0 points if they're still in your team. I know last year I had an issue with Ronaldo, who I had at the start, and he got transferred out, and that was like 12 million sitting on my bench doing nothing for a couple weeks. And then it forced me into an early shuffle. So something to consider there. So be mindful that we're still in transfer season. Players might be going out that are currently in the game, and you don't want to be stuck with too many of them that are either going to rot on your bench and be hard to get out of your team. Another thing we talked about, we do have a World Cup mid-season where I think right now Serie will be playing like a American tournament in North America. And so there could be injuries of players going to the World Cup. There could be injuries in just kind of Mickey Mouse tournament that's going to be played. And you don't know how the team that you have going into the World Cup is going to look when they're coming out. Could have knocks, be injured, have a lack of fitness, played too many games. So that is a time that you might want to make sure that you have a shuffle chip available. So don't use your chips too early is what I'm trying to say. Notice that that is going to be part of what we factor in. Sure, they're not Serie A matches, but they're going to affect the Serie A season in a way. So do keep that in mind. I know I've said it before, but that'll be something that we haven't really had to deal with before, may never have to deal with again. But this season, it is something that for sure we need to take into consideration. I do just want to go through, because I know I'm saying, oh, this player might come in, this not. I want to go over a couple players that I do think are locked into my team, so you don't need to worry about them in case you're still he's transferring them out. How much can I actually trust that stuff? I'd say I have 6 players that are pretty well locked into my squad, and this is partially why I think they're not going to be starting with Immobile, because I'd say all 3 of my forwards are locked. But Theo Hernandez, I'm not getting rid of him out of my team. I can't see myself going without him to start the season. Paulo Dybala, he's been with the club for long enough in Roma. Roma has great fixtures. He's going to be the most attacking midfielder in the squad. I'd say he's a lock in my squad. Osimhen, Jovic, and Tammy Abraham, all my front 3. I'm going to be starting 3 strikers for sure this upcoming game week. All 3 of those I'd say are locks in my squad, as well as Lozano for Napoli, another attacking player in the Napoli squad with the good fixtures. Those 6 I'd say are locks. I want to say my 2 keepers for 4 million are pretty well locked in, because I think I want to go with that strategy. But if I hear that one of them's injured or one of those two is not actually going to be the starter, I might go with one of the 4.5s, which is why I'd say that they're not locked yet. And as far as the other defenders, currently I have 1.5 million in the bank, and I don't know if I want to have that much money stashed away in the bank to start the season. So I might upgrade some of my defenders to a more attacking defender. Like as you could see, if you looked at my first draft, if you haven't, go take a look at that video. But I had Smalling as one of my defenders. Maybe I upgrade him to Karsdorp for another 0.5 to have a more attacking defender. I had Skriniar. Maybe I upgrade him to Dumfries. But again, that's one to be careful of because there were rumors of him being linked to Chelsea, I believe. So just little things that I need to make sure of. And if I want to push that little more for some more attacking returns from a defender, these are things I'm thinking about still, which is why I would not say those players are locked yet. But those 6 players, I'll go over them one more time. Theo Hernandez, Paulo Dybala, Victor Osimhen, Jovic, Tammy Abraham, and Lozano, I'd say are my locks to start the season. And lastly, a really amazing piece of advice is keep watching these videos, keep subscribing if you haven't yet. It's free. It's just one click of a button. I'd really appreciate it. And follow on Twitter where some good discussion's been happening. Thanks so much for supporting. I will likely have my team selection video out for you tomorrow. And good luck on your season start. Take care.